Welcome back. In the past 2 weeks, the Agriculture Department published 2 gazettes outlining the procedure for exports from Southern Africa to the EU and the UK. Media reports that have claimed the country's fruit exports may be affected by new race-based quotas have been slammed by industry experts as sensationalist. To get an understanding of what exactly the quotas entail, we're speaking to Wolf Broad from the Agricultural Business Chamber, or AGBIS. Wolf, good evening, and thank you so much for speaking to us to clarify the issue. So the requirements to apply for these quotas are not new, but yet they've been misrepresented in the media. What is that misperception or misrepresentation all about? What's being said out there?
Thanks, Sunny. Thank you very much for the opportunity to offer some clarity. We have a existing trade agreement with the EU, us and a number of other countries in the Southern African region, and we also have a separate trade agreement with the UK, which was negotiated after Brexit. Now, both of these agreements have, as an annexure, a small subset of processed products, which are a minority of our agricultural exports to both countries or region and country, but they are administered separately. So once a year, those totals have to be republished in the Gazette. It's a fixed total negotiated in the agreement, and those products remain unchanged. And the criteria as well have also remained unchanged over the years for selecting applicants. So what we're looking at is a small set of products compared to the entire range of goods traded between SA and EU and SA and UK.
So basically what's been circulating in the media is that there are race-based quotas based on one of those requirements being BBBEE or broad-based black economic empowerment criteria in that application process. Yet that only makes out one of those requirements. Just take us through how that process works. Sure. And what some of the other criteria are that balances out those needs.
Yeah, no, certainly. This is where the misconception has come in, and unfortunately, in our very interconnected world of trade and exports, and with South Africa being a very export orientated country, especially for agriculture, these misperceptions can travel quite far and fast and cause harm, unfortunately. So basically, an applicant is evaluated according to about 4 criteria. There's the size of the quota, there's the number of applicants, there's the type of product that is being applied for. Then there is the triple BEE criteria as well. Now, what needs to be noted is that the triple BEE criteria is not the overriding criteria. It is one of this set of criteria. Applicants are judged according to this basket. And so the triple BEE is not a exclusionary criteria, and there's no minimum threshold that has to be reached by an applicant to participate. And in addition, any applicant under 10 million a year in terms of turnover is exempted as a micro enterprise. So what has been stated, unfortunately, in the media is actually completely factually incorrect. There's no such risk. There's no such risk to white farmers as exporters. It is just completely inaccurate, unfortunately. But with these type of trade agreements and the details thereof, it is a very specific set of regulations. But yes, there's no change to the regulations. They're the same as they've been for the last number of years.
So the impact of and effectiveness of these vital trade agreements are currently being reviewed. So how can misrepresentations impact this review process negatively?
Well, the negotiations between, for example, the EU and South Africa in the context of the SADC EU Economic Partnership Agreement have been quite slow. They've been quite drawn out. There's been bursts of progress. And unfortunately, at times, the negotiations have also been quite difficult between the parties, with disagreements, debates over interpretations of various aspects. So in this environment, it's very important that the two parties have a sense of clarity, of trust for each other, and misconceptions around issues such as these then play into the public domain, into optics, into PR, into politics. It's not helpful, because the EU themselves also have their own PR to take note of. So do we, and we have our own objectives in the negotiations, as do they. and the negotiations are not complete and can go in different directions. So in the middle of negotiations, to have this type of sudden uproar and sort of media firestorm is really undesirable, because we need to land those reviews. We need to continue with our negotiations with our value trade partners. And it is something that has to be done in an atmosphere of clarity and transparency.
Just remind us again, which products, agricultural products, export products, do these requirements and these quotas apply to?
Okay, well, we have a range of processed products. It's identical for EU and UK. Pretty much the UK adopted the same list. And we're talking about strawberries, talking about skim milk, we're talking about butter, for example, ethanol, bulk wine, bottled wine, raw sugar, refined sugar, crystalline sugar. I mentioned ethanol, fruit juices, and canned fruits. Out of these products, not all fulfill the quotas and export the tonnage that they're allowed to export. So under the quota, you're given, for example, 500 tons for your strawberries, but not all sectors fulfill these tonnages. Sometimes it's because of the pricing in the markets overseas. Sometimes it's phytosanitary, plant and animal hygiene reasons. Sometimes it's a matter of the administration perhaps being a bit tricky. And in other cases, it might be that production capacity is not there. But the largest and most valuable products for us in this list as South Africa are the wine, the bulk and bottled. Then there's the sugar, and those two themselves are most significant. And then we have the canned fruits, the fruit juices, the ethanol following after those. So those products, they rely on these TRQs, especially the wine and the sugar. Those TRQs are a valuable part of their sustainability, and they're not replicated in the main agreement. That's the key point. These are sensitive sectors to both the EU and UK, and they're granted as an additional form of access into these markets. So if you had a problem with your TRQ, it's not replicated in the main agreement. So these TRQs are very valuable in themselves to South Africa and South African exporters. Because South African agriculture is over 50% value add goes to the export market, and in some sectors such as the wine and others, it's even higher. What I can clarify though is that there's no fresh fruit apart from strawberries in these TRQs.
Okay. And with the pressures on our farmers at the moment and the value, agricultural value chain, it's absolutely critical that we don't allow any unnecessary misrepresentation to cloud those trade negotiations. Thank you so much for your input. That was Wolf Broad from Agbiz.